My name is Bill Marler. I'm the owner of Marler Clark, a law firm focused on food safety here in Seattle, and I'm the publisher of Food Safety News. There has been an outbreak of E. coli that seems to be focused primarily on catering events that in and around the Rockford School. And there are also some veterans events and some funerals. And the common denominator is Andre's Catering. The health department believes that it may well be a salad or salads that were served to all these different venues. The lettuce has just come back. The leftover lettuce has just come back testing negative. And that's not a unusual situation. It's most of the time leftover product. It never tests positive. Every once in a while you get lucky and they find that. But, not to be sort of silly, but, people eat the evidence, and that's how people get sick. And so it really is not unusual, and it doesn't mean that the outbreak was not caused by the salads or by the catering company. But unfortunately, we've seen, over 100 people sick, and two high school kids are in the hospital with hemolytic uremic syndrome, and the outbreak is still under investigation. So we really don't know the scope of it and whether or not there are going to be more illnesses counted. I think what it does sort of underscore is, the real change in where E. coli cases sort of come from now. The first decade of my practice, it was E. coli cases linked to a hamburger, undercooked hamburger. And over the last 20 years, that's shifted to, ready to eat or nearly ready to eat leafy greens and other fruits and vegetables. And so, like the McDonald's outbreak that we've been talking about over the last month that has been linked to processed slivered onions, those sorts of ready-to-eat products like slivered onions or lettuce or other ingredients that might go into a salad, it just really underscores the risk and how producers, growers, processors, shippers need to, be really aware of these bacterial risks and do everything they can do to prevent it. Because, like eating a quarter pounder that has slivers onions on it, there's nothing the consumer can do at that point. And the same with, at a high school band banquet or at a funeral or, at another event, you're eating a salad that's prepared by someone else. And so there's nothing the consumer can do except, trust that producer that they've sourced products from, well-known and well-respected, growers and shippers. Yeah, that's a really good question. Catering events is a lot like smorgasbords or large catering lines in restaurants. It's like keeping hot things hot and cold things cold. It's super important. But again, it's not likely that this E. coli outbreak was caused by an ill worker or something that that occurred in in the restaurant, like cross-contamination between hamburger or red meat and the lettuce. The outbreak seems too large to have been something that happened in the facility. So you really have to look pretty hard at the likelihood is that something came in from a grower and a shipper that was used in this salad that caused this outbreak. Sometimes you're not going to know because a salad may have multiple ingredients, and then to try to discern what it is becomes virtually impossible. So again, it just really underscores the challenge that processors, growers, shippers, and the people who utilize those products face. In many respects, the caterer is in the same position that you and I are when we're making a salad for our family at home. You can wash it, you can source it properly, but still, if it comes in contaminated, a bad thing can happen. And here, fortunately, so far it appears that, with the 106 people with, unfortunately, with 2 kids with HUS, but it looks like, the population that was being served this E. coli contaminated product, is relatively healthy. And so the illnesses have not been as severe as sometimes you see in E. coli outbreaks. The one thing about foodborne illness outbreaks, and it's sort of a sad feature of them, is that the more people that get sick, the more in different events that they have gone to, the easier it is to link it back to one thing. And, that's true in this catering situation where, first of all, it seemed like it was all at one event. And then it was a event where the cheerleaders and veterans were together. And now it's two funerals and another event. And the common denominator is, that this caterer catered all those events. And also important, and, one of the things that I think has solidified outbreak investigations is, the use of whole genome sequencing, where they know that, the culture confirmed cases are identical. The E. coli that was found in those culture confirmed cases is the identical same bacteria. So that it came from a single source. But the same thing that you see here, you see up in Minnesota with respect to the hamburger. You have two different restaurant chains, two different restaurants having E. coli outbreaks, and that the common denominator was the supplier of the meat, which is Wolverine, which prompted the recall. So the sad thing about foodborne illness outbreaks is, the larger they are, the more diverse they are, the better likely that you're going to be able to figure out what the common denominator is. It's a challenge. It is a challenge for schools or churches to, when they have events catered, they certainly, you can rely on, inspection reports that, because a caterer, just like a restaurant, is subject to inspection reports. And you can kind of, get a gauge at least at how important or not important food safety is. So that's just like going to a restaurant. You're putting your faith, you're putting your trust in that restaurateur or that caterer, to feed you food that doesn't have a pathogen in it that could sicken or kill you. So it's a challenge. And I think that, schools, churches, weddings, funerals, all of those, you have to rely on the restaurant, the caterer, to do the right thing.